The auction begins. The iron gate opened with a loud creak. A cold wind blew through the holding area. Metal walls, gray and lifeless, surrounded cages full of frightened aliens. Most were silent. A few cried. Others just stared at the floor, waiting for their fate. Callan stood in front of a control panel, his jaw tight. He wore the black uniform of the Galactic Enforcement Division, but his eyes looked tired, older than his age. He had done many jobs over the years, guard duty, bounty work, transport missions, but this one felt like poison in his blood. The auction was about to begin. Behind him, a screen lit up. A face appeared, Commander Rawl, cruel and proud. Room 7, mother and 2 alien brats. Sell them to the highest bidder. No delays this time, Rawl said. We're behind quota. Callan didn't reply. He turned and walked toward room 7. The cage door opened with a hiss. Inside sat a thin alien woman, her skin pale green, hair like silver thread. Her arms wrapped protectively around 2 small children. One was shaking, the other looked too weak to move. The woman looked up at Callan. Her lips didn't move, but her eyes said everything. Don't take them, please. Callan stared at them. He had seen many prisoners over the years, but this was different. The woman didn't look dangerous, she looked exhausted. One of the children coughed, a dry, painful sound. Callan noticed the younger one had a wound on her leg, poorly bandaged, and probably infected. He pulled out his datapad and scanned the cage. ID, Lyra, female, age unknown, with 2 offspring. Status, unclaimed refugee, suggested sale, labor or breeding. His hand clenched the datapad. He turned on the communicator. This is Callan. Room 7. The woman's injured, the child's sick. They won't last a week. Rawl's voice came back sharp. Then sell them faster. They're not your problem. The communicator clicked off. Callan looked at the woman again. Lyra. That was her name. She held her child tighter. Something inside Callan shifted. A memory came back, of a little girl, his own daughter, years ago. She had coughed like that once. Before she died in a refugee camp no one cared about. He stepped closer to the cage. Can you walk? He asked softly. The woman didn't answer, but slowly, painfully she stood. Her legs shook. The children clung to her. Callan opened the cage. Down the hall, buyers were already lining up in the auction room. Rich men, cruel faces, some alien, some human. The smell of perfume and greed filled the air. Callan led the woman and her children. To the front desk, the auctioneer looked up. Lot 17? Let me guess. Weak, sick, and useless. Might sell for scraps. He laughed. Callan didn't smile. The auctioneer began the announcement. Lot 17, female, adult, unclaimed race. Too young, starting bid. Stop, Callan said. The auctioneer blinked. What? I said stop. Callan growled louder. These 3 are not for sale. The crowd went silent. All eyes turned to him. Commander Rawl's voice exploded in his ear again. What the hell are you doing? Sell them. Callan looked at the alien mother, then at the 2 small children. One reached out and grabbed his finger, trusting him. He looked back at the auctioneer. You heard me. I'm not selling them. You'll be court-martialed, Rawl screamed. You'll be hunted. I've been hunted before, Callan said calmly. Then, in one quick motion, he drew his weapon and pointed it at the control panel. Erase them from the logs. The auctioneer froze. You're insane. Erase them, Callan said again. Outside, alarms began to sound. The alien mother gasped. The children clung to her. Callan grabbed a coat and tossed it to her. We're leaving. Now. As the crowd started to panic, Callan kicked open a side door and led them into the back corridors. The ship's engines roared above. Soldiers were coming. They had only minutes. Lyra looked at him, confused and scared. Callan didn't look back. He just said 2 words. Trust me. And then they ran. He said no. The tunnel was narrow and dark, lit only by flickering backup lights. Kalen held the little alien boy in his arms. Lyra ran beside him, limping, clutching her daughter close. Their feet pounded against the cold metal floor. Behind them, sirens screamed louder. "Run faster," Kalen urged, though he knew Lyra could barely stand. They had escaped the auction room, but not for long. Security drones would be hunting already. Commander Rawl would be furious. He'd send soldiers, maybe even bounty hunters. Kalen led them through an old service hatch only he knew about. Years ago, he had used this tunnel during the war. Now, it would be their only hope. They reached a hidden docking bay. A rusted, half-broken shuttle sat in the corner. Kalen's fingers flew across the control panel. "Come on. Still working?" The lights blinked red, then green. "Yes," he whispered. Lyra watched him from behind, her chest rising and falling with every tired breath. The children were silent, eyes wide and frightened. They didn't speak his language, but they understood one thing. He hadn't hurt them. The shuttle took off with a blast of old engines. Smoke covered the sky. Kalen set a course away from the station toward the outer rim, a place few dared to go. Inside the small ship, the air was cold, but it was quiet. Safe. For now. Lyra sat in the corner holding both children. Kalen handed her a blanket and a water pack. "You need to drink," he said. She took it carefully, bowing her head in thanks. After a while, Kalen sat across from her. "My name's Kalen," he said softly. Lyra looked at him, confused. Then, slowly, she pointed at herself. Lyra. Then at her children. Zari and Rin. He smiled for the first time in weeks. "Nice to meet you." Later that night, when the kids were sleeping, Lyra surprised him by whispering in broken basic, "Why, help us?" Kalen didn't answer at first. He stared at the stars outside the shuttle window. "Because I couldn't help." Last time, Lyra tilted her head. "I had a daughter," Kalen said, voice heavy. "She died during the war, in a refugee camp. No one helped, not even me." Lyra lowered her eyes. She understood. Pain had a language of its own. The shuttle reached a small moon, a forgotten mining colony Kalen had used for smuggling years ago. No cameras, no patrols, just old machines and dust. He guided them into a hidden storage shelter. Inside were supplies, sleeping mats and a tiny heater. "We'll stay here a few days," he said. "Rest, then move again." Lyra nodded. As she laid her children down, Kalen turned on a small screen to check for signals. He paused. There it was, an alert. Wanted. Human trader Kalen of Sector 9. Stole valuable property. Alien mother and 2 offspring. Reward, 50,000 credits, dead or alive. He stared at the screen. Then someone knocked on the shuttle's outer hatch. Bang, bang, bang. His weapon was already in his hand. He moved fast, quietly stepping outside. A figure stood in the shadows. Tall, scarred, wearing a faded soldier's coat. "You still know how to hide, old friend," the figure said. Kalen relaxed a little. "Loran?" The man stepped forward. "I heard the broadcast, thought you were dead." Kalen lowered his gun. "Not yet." Loran looked past him toward the shuttle. "So it's true. You took them." Kalen nodded. "I had to. They would have died." Loran stepped closer. "You know what the bounty hunters will do if they catch you? They'll burn the kids alive just to send a message." Kalen's jaw clenched. "Then I won't let them catch us." "You're risking everything," Loran said. "For aliens?" Kalen stared into his old friend's eyes. "They're not aliens anymore. They're under my protection now." Loran was quiet. Then he said something that chilled Kalen's blood. "Sent a signal before I landed. They know you're here. Cliffhanger." Kalen's head whipped toward the shuttle. Lyra and the children were inside. And now, they were in more danger than ever. Nowhere is safe. Smoke rose slowly from the campfire outside the shelter. The stars above the mining moon were quiet, cold, and far away. But inside the old cargo station, danger was crawling closer, and Callan knew it. He stood by the broken window, watching every shadow. His fingers were tense on his weapon. Beside him, Lyra gently rocked her youngest child, Rin, who had started to cough again. Zari, the older child, sat silently, drawing circles in the dust with her little finger. No one spoke. Finally, Callan turned to Lyra. "We have to leave. Someone's coming." Lyra nodded. She had seen it in his eyes. Suddenly, a voice came through the comlink outside the door, a cold, metallic voice. "Attention, fugitive. You are harboring stolen biological assets. Surrender them now for reward. You have 30 seconds. Lyra froze. Zari grabbed her brother and hid behind her mother. Callan didn't move. His mind raced. No ships had landed, no footsteps, only the voice drones. He grabbed the emergency light and smashed it, throwing the shelter into near darkness. Then he took Lyra's hand. "Take the kids. Back door. Now." They didn't ask questions, just moved. Callan opened a secret tunnel in the floor. It led to the old mine shafts, abandoned and unstable, but better than staying. As they climbed down into the dark, Callan stayed back and dropped a thermal charge at the entrance. Boom. The station above shook. That would buy them a few minutes. Maybe. The tunnels were tight and cold. Rin whimpered quietly in his mother's arms. Callan led the way with a dim flashlight. His voice stayed calm, but inside his thoughts screamed. The bounty system was faster than he expected. His old friend Loran had betrayed him. Now the drones were here, and hunters wouldn't be far behind. Finally, after crawling through old support beams and broken vents, they reached a small hidden room carved into the rock. They rested there, breathing hard. Lyra reached out and gently touched Callan's arm. "You saved us, again." Callan shook his head. "No, I put you in danger," but Lyra gave a small, tired smile. "Still, you stayed." Later that night, as the children slept huddled together, Callan looked at Lyra. "I need to leave for a few hours." She looked alarmed. "Why?" "The boy's fever is worse. He needs medicine. There's a city out here. Human colony. Risky, but it has supplies." Lyra grabbed his sleeve. "Too dangerous." He looked down at Rin's pale face. "Too dangerous not to." The next scene was different. The city of New Oraxis was clean, polished and full of lights. Humans walked the streets. Security patrols scanned every face. Callan wore a hood and kept his head low. He reached the back of an old medical shop he once helped during the war. An older woman, scarred and kind-eyed, opened the door. "Callan, I thought you were dead." "Not yet," he said. "What do you need?" "Antibiotics for a child. Alien." She paused, then nodded. "You're doing the right thing." As she handed him the medicine, she whispered, "Careful. Word's out. A bounty hunter arrived this morning." Callan's heart sank. He turned to leave, then stopped cold. Across the street, a tall, armored figure stood by a hoverbike. Red eyes, steel armor, bounty hunter, and he was scanning the crowd. Callan slipped into the shadows and escaped through the back alleys. Back at the mine shelter, Lyra waited at the cave entrance. Her eyes searched the dark tunnel. When Callan finally appeared, carrying the medicine, she ran forward, not to escape, but to help him walk. He was limping. A small wound bled on his leg. He had taken a hit, but he had made it. He handed her the vial. "Give him half now, half in the morning." Lyra's eyes shone with relief. That night, as the fever broke and Rin finally slept peacefully, Lyra whispered, "You are not just helping, you are protecting us. Why?" Callan looked at her. "Because I see my daughter in your kids. And I see the man I should have been." Lyra reached over and gently touched his hand. Then, "Stay that man." But far away at the city's watchtower, the bounty hunter stared at a glowing tracker in his palm. He smiled. "I've got you now, Callan." The trap was set. Snow began to fall on the surface of the forgotten moon. Far below, inside the mine tunnels, the tiny shelter felt warm for once. Rin's fever was gone. Zari was laughing for the first time, her hand in Callan's, learning how to write his name in the dirt. Lyra watched them with quiet eyes. Her arms were wrapped around her knees, but for the first time she didn't look afraid. She looked home. But Callan was not smiling. Something felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. He stepped outside the shelter and scanned the rocky slope with his old field scope. At first, nothing. Then, movement. A shadow shifted. Too smooth. Too clean. Not part of the natural rocks. A stealth drone. His heart dropped. They found us back inside. Callan grabbed his gear and handed Lyra a pack of supplies. Don't ask. Just move. Take the kids. Go through the eastern shaft and wait in the cave with the red stones. I'll catch up. Lyra stood up fast. You're not coming with us? He loaded his weapon and gave her a look. Not angry. Just determined. I will. But first I need to slow them down. Zari grabbed his coat. Papa, come too. He bent down and kissed her forehead. I promise. Soon. Moments later, Callan was back on the upper ledge, crouched behind a metal pipe. The drone hovered nearby, scanning with its red beam. He picked up a rock, threw it hard to the left. The drone turned. He fired. Bizzzt. The drone dropped like a dying wasp, but the noise echoed too loud. From the ridge above, boots hit the ground, heavy ones. A figure landed silently, cloaked in black armor with a red glow visor. The bounty hunter. Found you, human. His voice was smooth and cruel. Callan rolled and fired, but the hunter was fast. A plasma shot grazed Callan's side, burning his jacket. He dove behind cover, heart racing. The hunter moved like a machine. No fear, no mercy. Give me the aliens, the hunter called, stepping closer, or I'll burn this entire tunnel system down. Callan stood slowly, gun aimed. You really think I care about your threats? No, the hunter replied. But I know you care about them. He held up a small device, a tracker screen. It showed Lyra and the kids running in the tunnel. You think I came here alone? Callan fired and ran. Through the tunnels, he sprinted past crates, broken carts, old machines. His legs screamed from pain, but he didn't stop. He had one goal, reach them first. Lyra saw him first as he came around the bend. They're behind us? Yes, he said. They know everything, but I've got a plan. He led them into a sealed part of the mine, a collapsed area that hadn't been touched in years. Old maps in his head guided them. Behind a cracked wall there was a secret chamber, a rebel hideout from the old war. Inside were crates, weapons, tools, a small power core still glowing. We hide here, Callan said, and we fight if we must. Lyra looked at the weapons. We? He nodded. Together. Hours passed. Silence again. Zari played quietly with an old tool. Rin slept in Lyra's arms. Callan stood guard at the entrance, weapon ready, and then, a flash of red. Boom. The wall exploded inward. The bounty hunter walked in, slow, calm, like he had all the time in the world. No more running. Callan stepped. In front of Lyra and the kids. You want them? You'll have to go through me. The hunter raised his weapon. That's the idea. They fired at the same time. The fight was brutal. Sparks flew. Walls cracked. Callan rolled, dodged, fired, bleeding from his shoulder. Then, Zari screamed. The bounty hunter turned. That split second of distraction was all Callan needed. He grabbed a pipe, charged, and slammed it into the hunter's helmet. Crack, the red visor, shattered. Callan raised his blaster and shot point blank. The hunter dropped, smoke rising from his armor. Silence again. Lyra ran to him, hands on his wounds. Zari and Rin hugged his legs. You're hurt, Lyra said, eyes wide. Callan smiled weakly. But you're safe. He looked around the old chamber. A thought sparked in his head. We can't keep hiding. It's time to go somewhere no one can reach us. Where? Lyra asked. He looked at the glowing map on the wall. Somewhere forgotten. Somewhere free. The rescue. The old rebel map flickered as dust settled over the broken hideout. Callan's arm was bleeding, his leg shaky, but he stayed on his feet. His eyes moved over the glowing lines, past ruined sectors and abandoned outposts, until one word stopped him. Sanctuary. A small lost world far beyond patrol routes. No guards, no bounty hunters, just forests, lakes, peace. He turned to Lyra. I think I've found it. A place where they'll never find us. Lyra's eyes were tired, but filled with hope. Let's go. It took 2 days to repair an old rebel shuttle hidden deep in the cave. Callan and Lyra worked non-stop. Zari helped by handing tools. Rin mostly napped, but smiled again for the first time when the engine hummed to life. Callan climbed into the pilot seat, hands trembling. It's not pretty, he said, but it'll fly. The shuttle lifted into the stars. They had escaped the bounty hunter. But they were not safe yet. Their ship had barely crossed into the outer rim when a red warning light flashed. Unmarked vessel approaching. Callan's heart sank. He checked. The screen. A warship. Big. Fast. No ID. Hang on, he shouted, jerking the controls. Missiles flew past the window. Zari screamed. Lyra grabbed both kids and held them tight. The enemy ship was faster, newer, built for hunting. But Callan had something better. Desperation. He pushed the engines past their limit. Metal screamed. Fire sparked inside the walls, but they broke atmosphere and dove toward the blue planet marked Sanctuary. The shuttle crash landed hard in the forest. The nose struck a tree. Smoke poured from the engine, and Callan's vision went black. When he woke, he was lying on soft ground. Sunlight filtered through trees. Leaves whispered in the breeze. Lyra was beside him, placing a damp cloth on his head. You're alive, she said quietly. Callan blinked. The kids? She smiled. Safe, scared, but safe. He tried to sit up. Pain exploded in his side. Don't, she warned. You broke up. He spent days healing in the forest. The planet was beautiful, untouched by war. Blue lakes, green trees, quiet nights. Zari chased birds. Rin splashed in the water. Lyra smiled more each day. Callan sat beneath a tree watching them. Something inside him felt warm again. But it didn't last. One morning, while Lyra picked berries and the kids laughed nearby, Callan returned to the crash site to salvage parts. What he found made his blood freeze. A tracker. Buried under the engine. Hidden in the old rebel tech. It had been sending a signal. The warship didn't find them by chance. It was a trap. He ran back to the lake. Lyra was washing clothes. The kids played nearby. He spoke fast. We have to move, now. What is it? We were followed. The tracker, they know we're here. Lyra's face went pale. But where do we go? This was the last place. Then we stop running, Callan said. We fight back. That night, Callan wired the tracker to an old beacon. He reprogrammed the signal, making it look like they had moved south, toward the frozen mountains. Then he set traps along the real path. Motion sensors. Explosives. Smoke bombs. It wasn't much, but it was enough to confuse a first wave. When the attackers came, they came fast. A smaller scout ship landed first. 5 armed mercs stepped out. Callan didn't wait. He hit the first trap. Boom. Smoke filled the trees. Lights blinded them. Confusion. From behind a tree, Lyra threw a rock. One turned. Whack! Callan took him down. Lyra grabbed his weapon. Another merc fell to a snare Callan had set using old wires. 2 ran into the smoke and never came out. Silence. By dawn, the attackers were gone. Lyra sat with a bruised arm but a steady smile. Zari looked up at Callan and whispered, You didn't run. He looked at her and smiled back. Not anymore. He buried the tracker deep in the forest. Then, with Lyra's help, he began building a new shelter, brick by brick, wall by wall, not a hiding place, a home. ties that bind. The days passed slower now, but softer too. Each sunrise brought new sounds, birds in the trees, the soft splash of Rin's small feet in the water, and the quiet rhythm of hammers as Callan and Lyra built their new life together. No more alarms, no more sirens. Just wood, stone, and breath. The house they built was small but strong, a square shape with a slanted roof, made from forest trees and scrap from the old shuttle. The fire pit outside always burned. Smoke curled gently toward the sky like a signal, not of distress but of life. Callan carried heavy beams, his injured shoulder still sore but healing. Lyra tied branches for the roof. Zari collected smooth stones to place around the path. Rin, too young to help, made tiny piles of leaves and called them guard towers. They were a team, a family, and Callan felt something he hadn't felt in years: peace. One evening, as golden light filled the sky, Lyra sat by the river, watching the children skip rocks. Callan joined her, handing her a fruit he'd picked from the tall trees near the hill. They sat quietly, side by side, their knees nearly touching. After a long silence, she spoke. "You could still leave, you know." Callan looked at her. "Why would I?" "Because your world is out there, this planet is forgotten, broken. Like me." He turned toward her, voice calm but firm. "You're not broken. And this place, it saved me too." She looked away, but he saw her smile. That night, the stars were bright above the trees. Zari asked for a story. Rin curled beside Callan, thumb in his mouth. Lyra sat close as Callan spoke in a soft voice, telling a tale from Earth, a story of a soldier who had nothing but found a family in the stars. Zari's eyes slowly closed. Lyra leaned her head on Callan's shoulder. He didn't move. Next morning, Callan checked the ship's wreckage again, not for escape, but for something else. He found it inside an old metal crate, a data drive, dusty, unread. He powered it using the last of the shuttle's core. A file popped up. Personal transmission. Callan's daughter, Talia. His hands shook as he hit play. A fuzzy video loaded, a small girl. Brown eyes, dirty cheeks, speaking through static. "Dad, I don't know if you're alive. They took me, said you were gone. But I waited, believed I'm safe now. Some aliens saved me. They're kind. They say humans can't find us, but maybe you will. If you do, I miss you. I love you." The screen blinked. The message ended. Callan didn't move. Later, Lyra found him sitting alone by the wreck. "Are you okay?" He looked at her, tears not yet dried. "She's alive." Lyra's eyes widened. "Your daughter?" He nodded. "The war. I thought she was gone. But she was taken, protected, raised by aliens, somewhere out there." Lyra sat beside, him gently placing her hand over his. "Then we find her." He shook his head slowly. "I don't want to lose you, or the kids. I finally have something again." Lyra's voice was soft but strong. "You don't have to choose. Maybe this was all meant to happen. Maybe we're not just survivors. Maybe we're supposed to be together." Callan looked into her eyes and for the first time saw no fear, only strength. The same strength he had grown to admire. That night, Lyra sat outside as the wind moved through the trees. She stared up at the stars, thinking of the journey, the cage, the auction, the cold, then the human who refused to sell her and chose to fight instead. Behind her, Callan stepped into the light. He held something in his hand, a small carved wooden pendant. "For Zari," he said. "Made it from the tree. She loves to climb." Lyra took it and smiled. "You're not just protecting us anymore," she whispered. "You're part of us." He didn't reply. He just reached out, slowly, and brushed a strand of silver hair from her face. The forest slept and so did the children, but two hearts sat awake under the stars. no longer running, no longer alone. Family, not for sale. The sun rose gently over the green world of Sanctuary. Mist floated over the trees. Birds sang softly. Near the quiet stream, two children laughed as they chased butterflies. Zari wore her wooden pendant proudly. Rin wore one, of Callan's old gloves dragging on the ground, pretending to be a hero. And Callan was no longer pretending either. He stood outside the small home he had helped build with his own hands. The roof was strong, the walls were firm, but what made the place feel full was not the wood or the stone. It was the sound of Lyra's voice, inside humming as she stirred food for the morning meal. Callan closed his eyes. He had never imagined this. Not after the war. Not after his daughter was taken. Not after he became a man who sold lives for money. But now, he had something worth protecting. A real family. Later that morning, as the kids napped in the grass, Callan pulled Lyra aside. He showed her the repaired transmitter, a device with one signal, a single encrypted location. Lyra stared at it, confused. Callan whispered, "It's where they took my daughter." The signal from the message. Lyra touched his hand. Then Coe hesitated. "But this is your home now. You and the children, safe here." "I won't risk that." She looked at him, quiet for a long time. Then she said the words he didn't expect. "Where you go, we go." 3 days later, the small ship rose again into the stars. It was patched. Slow and old, but determined, just like its pilot. They traveled through old routes, dodged scans, stayed low. Lyra taught the kids basic star maps. Zari helped Callan scan signals. Rin slept curled in Lyra's lap. They reached the signal source, a quiet moon wrapped in pink clouds. No cities, just one temple surrounded by glowing trees. The place was peaceful, sacred. Callan stepped down first. His heart pounded. His hands were shaking. He didn't know if he'd find answers or more pain. Inside the temple, soft lights lit up as they entered. A figure appeared in the hallway, small, graceful, alien, and behind her was a girl, human, about 14. She had brown eyes. Her hair was braided in a way Callan remembered from long ago, something her mother used to do. The girl stared at him. He stepped forward. "Talia?" She didn't speak. Then slowly she walked toward him. Her lip trembled. You're real?" Callan dropped to his knees. Tears filled his eyes. "I'm sorry it took so long." She ran into his arms, burying her face in his chest. He held her close, shaking. "I never stopped looking." The alien caretakers watched from a distance. One stepped forward. "We protected her when others would not. She is your blood, but she is also part of our family." Callan nodded with respect. "Then I owe you more than I can ever repay." The elder smiled. "You already did, by becoming a father again." They returned to Sanctuary weeks later, this time with Talia beside them. Zari was shy at first. Rin tried to impress her by falling into the river. Lyra watched them from the porch, smiling softly. She turned to Callan. "You brought her home." He looked back at her, eyes warm. "No, you made this home." That night, the fire crackled outside. The 5 of them sat around it, eating, laughing, telling stories. Lyra leaned against Callan. Talia braided Zari's hair. Rin was fast asleep on Callan's lap. There was no title for what they had become. Not just a rescue, not just a second chance, but a bond deeper than blood. A family not for sale, not broken, not alone, just together. Far away, in a cold galactic station, a message was received by the corrupt commander who once barked orders. Subject Callan. Status unknown. Believed dead. No trace of the alien mother or children. Case closed. He tossed the report, aside uninterested. And so, The galaxy forgot them. But in the forest of a quiet world, under stars no one cared to count. They remembered each other, and that was enough. The end.